Well, good morning. Everybody's got their microphone muted, which I can't blame you. It's early. Good morning.
Morning.
See if I can get my video here. Why am I not? Oh, okay. Here we go. Ooh,
There he is.
yeah. Hmm. Don't have my background. Let's see how I do that. Jerry, let's see. You were interviewed by recently on, gosh,
David Beckworth.
yes. And you reviewed the early money issued by banks and anybody else that wanted to issue it in the early years of the formation of the country, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought it was good. I kind of lost it a little bit, but anyway, I listened to it some. And you made the case why there needs to be one central authority. Believe that's what you were making the case. Tell me what I missed on it, or just recap it kind of quickly for us, if you want to take 2 seconds to do it, um, or not.
One central authority for what?
Say again.
I thought you just said make the case for one central authority.
Yes.
And for what?
So that's I thought you were making the case about stable coins, and everybody
Oh,
and their
yes.
brother starts making stable coins, and it creates the chaos that you crafted earlier, I believe, in the conversation about different, you know, states doing their own denomination of dollar,
Oh,
that sort of thing. Am I
yeah. Well, Dennis is going to disagree with this, which is okay. Um, there's different things. One of them is you can have lots of different stable coins. That's not an issue at all. I mean, as long as a Circle stable coin is one they promise to redeem, and
Mhm.
another stable coin is one they promise to redeem, then everything is fine. I mean, there is a different question, which is, and this is a reason North Dakota is going to do it too, besides Wyoming, and Dennis is pushing for South Carolina to do it, is states issuing stable coins. There's like, I have two problems with that. One of them is I'm basically a free market person, which means the government shouldn't be doing much of anything that can be done by private people. And I don't see where government has any advantage whatsoever, state governments have any advantage whatsoever in issuing a stable coin. I mean, maybe there is some, but I haven't seen the case that that's true. It's like, oh, here, we're going to issue a stable coin, and it's issued by the state government. I think Circle is every bit as reliable as the state of North Dakota or Wyoming. I see no reason whatsoever to assume the government's going to be any more honest or dishonest or anything else. Um, and I don't, if like somebody said, well, you can pay your South Carolina taxes in South Carolina money, it's like, okay, that's just an extra transaction for me to do. And
Okay.
I'd rather not be bothered.
So
Um,
so what you're saying is we have enough stable coins as is.
Yeah, we have stable coins out there, and I just don't
Yeah.
see the advantage of the government doing it,
Okay.
literally.
So yeah.
And I think there's a disadvantage in this sense. What is part of what it can do, and this does happen, of course, is the government says, "Well, we're having trouble competing with these guys. Here, let's impose this restriction on them, and then we'll be able to compete with them better." In other words, they have an incentive to suppress the private ones to advantage their own,
Yeah.
which private Circle can't do, I mean, they do try, like banks right now are trying to make sure that the private stable coins can't pay interest. But they have to lobby the government to do that. They can't just say, okay, they can't. Whereas the
Got
state
it.
government has more freedom of action. Um, yeah, like I said,
Okay.
That's my
Stable coins,
personal take on state
yeah, stable
stablecoins.
coins is
I don't get it.
they they certainly present a bit of an opportunity and a bit of a could create some confusion. So anyway, I wanted to sort of tell you that I listened to that and you know
Thank you.
it was late one night and you fall asleep and all that kind of stuff.
I know.
Trying to remember. But anyway, yeah.
It's
So
okay.
I'm delighted
You
you're
know,
here
there was a
and
lot of
anybody
discussion
else.
of free banking, and that can get kind of out there.
I did want to say if anybody wants to chime in, I'm looking at Fireflies is with us today, and I'm looking at Fireflies as a note taker for this conversation. I'm looking at Otter and Fathom. And anybody want to sort of chime in on ones that they like? I know Dennis uses AI Companion, and I'm putting that aside. I'm asking about anything else that anybody uses and enjoys and finds it easy to use. I don't know whose Firefly this is that's on. I guess I could look. But anyway, nope,
I think
nobody.
it said Fred. Fred
It might be
usually is
Fred
what.
Girth. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Um,
anyway, um,
I
so
can't get
you,
into my damn Charles Schwab account this morning. I was like, what the hell? It won't let me log in. Ugh. Ugh.
well,
God.
that doesn't prevent you from giving us a little bit of what the hell's going on in the market today. Is it the China tariff?
No. No, I think it was the banking issues, which I'll get to at the end.
Okay,
Zions and Western Alliance are claiming fraud. But let me just do the rundown. Okay, so
sure.
it's been a very choppy week. The Dow's practically flat. It was only up 0.18%. That's 81 points. And it was all over the place again this morning. So this was I had to change it. I did a report 2 hours ago and I was like, what the heck? It's changed again. So I did it an hour ago. So that was about 8:30. The S&P is down 0.3%. It's at 6648.75 pre-market. Nasdaq was down almost 2.1%, and the Russell was actually up 0.71%. It went over 2,500, so it was pre-market 2,465. So the Russell has been doing pretty good, but overall it's only up 17 and a half points. Gold and silver have done the best. Gold in the past 5 days is up 6 point. I don't know if I have 71% or 6.11% in the past 5 days. It went above 4,000. This morning it was at 43.1670, and silver broke above $50 and it's up 5.92%. The dollar has strengthened a bit. It's at 98.46. The 10-year went below 4% yesterday, and pre-market it was at 3.995, but when I checked again, it actually hit 4% again. So it was 4.001%. So all the treasuries, the 2-year, the 3-year, the 5-year, the 10-year, 30-year, all went down yesterday. WTI crude, wow, it broke down last Friday below $60. This morning when I checked, it was $57.54. So oil, that is the worst I have seen. I tried to look back. The last time it hit $60, and it was, oh no, I looked back for the 10-year. The last time the 10-year was below 4% was July 2024. So it's more than a year ago. Um, Tesla reports next Wednesday on the 22nd. The Fed meets in 2 weeks on Wednesday, the 29th. We expected to cut interest rates. And I think that one of the things that made the market so wobbly this week was banks reported their earnings, and all the large banks, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, they all did great. But then it was Tricolor and First Brand. They reported bankruptcies. And Swanee, I don't know if that was last Friday. That might have been last week. And JP Morgan said, well, if there's one cockroach, there's got to be more cockroaches, which made the market nervous. Other people said it's not a systemic problem like Bank of America. But then yesterday, Zions, a regional bank, and Western Alliance reported they claimed that they had fraudulent loans to the same mortgage group and lost 50 million for Zions. I didn't hear the amount that Western Alliance had loaned, but I think they're writing it off as 100% loss. So Zions went down 13%, Western Alliance down 11%. They are trying to rebound, but it pulled down all of the regional banks. And last night, if you looked at the futures, everything went way down, especially the Dow, I guess, on concerns like, oh no, are we having cracks in the credit market? But well, I can't log into Charles Schwab for some reason this morning, but it looked like things were trying to rebound. So I have no idea what's going on right now. And then I guess a little bit of positive news. AMD was upgraded to $300. It did hit 240, which was its last week's target. And then NVIDIA has a new price target of 239. So not even as high as AMD's. And the reason those price targets keep going up is all these AI, what do you call it? Announcements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about,
got.
what's the other one that they mentioned that they were going to be involved with an AI project?
Oracle.
No, no.
Gosh, can I please log in? Damn
Yeah.
it.
You
Ugh.
still can't get in?
Still can't get in. Oh my God. That's so crazy. Yeah, it's just been a choppy market. I call it like a Charlie Brown t-shirt week. Up, down, up, down. It was so crazy. Yeah.
All right.
If you're a
So,
buy and hold person, I'm sure it was painful. Yeah. Good for options though.
all right,
What
somebody
in the
help me. I
hell?
don't have, I've got two people waiting in a waiting room and I can't see on my I'm sorry, on my Zoom app how to let people in that are in
Well,
a waiting room.
is
Um,
there
Should be
some
right
kind
at
of
the
weird
top of the app.
internet problem going on?
Say it
I
again.
couldn't get in either.
What,
It should
where
be
is it?
right at the top of your screen, or in the chat
No.
area. No, I mean the participants area.
Yeah. Apologize. I got some people on a wrong time. Let's see.
Well, gosh, let's hear from Aaron. What the heck is going on with
Yeah.
Bitcoin?
Yeah, hey, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, give us some good news.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't have
I
too
don't know.
much good news. So really we didn't have the call last Friday and we did have I would call it a black swan event. Definitely in terms of uh a liquidation event, which was by far the biggest one in crypto history. I think they were estimating somewhere around $19 billion were liquidated
Wow.
from different decentralized and centralized exchanges. And so, yeah, you saw that the giant, dip, and, I was pretty bullish and had my ranges, and, it kept going down. And the most interesting thing was on a lot of these exchanges, the price levels of the altcoins, what they reached. Some of them reached 50 to 90% down. And you're talking
Mm.
about top 20 market cap coins, not like, kind of your less popular coins, your bigger coins dropping that much in a matter of seconds. And I think it brought light to a lot of different, theories and speculation, but a lot of that kind of house of cards with liquidity on these centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges. throw in the lending and collateral and how that's all stacked up when you see those giant changes in price, and people that were on 2x leverage or 3x leverage for long distances were all getting liquidated. It asked the questions, where's the money going, who's doing this, and there's one wallet. I think I don't want to add light to any different theories, but that one wallet made $192 million in a matter of 2 hours, which is pretty serious. If you think about it and how they timed their shorts, starting with a short at the beginning of the day, adding to the short position 30 minutes before Trump makes an announcement, and you can kind of see it all on chain. It's very interesting, in terms of corruptness and and manipulation. It's out there. It's in stocks too, but in crypto, you can actually see it and verify it and go back and look at it, which is pretty interesting. So, the big level in Bitcoin that I was looking at was 107, as far as like a weekly close, and it's kind of broke that right now. You're kind of sitting at support.
Yeah.
I'm not too actually confident in the fact that it's not going to go down any more. Definitely dollar cost average. Altcoins are pretty cheap right now. Still a good thesis, a bullish thesis for the rest of the month, depending on the weekly close and kind of see where we're at. But you got to kind of change the goalpost with these black swan events and how low they're going to take it. And but yeah, I definitely dollar cost average. But yeah, that's all I got.
Well, are
Well,
you suggesting insider trading?
Yeah, one of the theories, and they can't, is so World WL World Liberty Finance.
yeah.
There was a giant sell before, and then they did the shorts, and then they bought back though too, into that after all the announcements and stuff too. But I don't think there's a direct link from that wallet to the wallet that shorted and made the 192 million. But there was definitely some weird timing, and the amount of money that was used to open positions is definitely questionable. But yeah, I
So,
think, yeah, go ahead.
so do you think that we're kind of going into a more of a bear market like we normally would in all the other cycles, or do you think this is going to extend into like Q2 like everybody else is saying?
I wouldn't necessarily call like bear market at this point. I know there's a lot. It's more up for debate than it was before. I'm not sold on it. I just want to see some longer term or that higher time frame kind of closes to see if where that support and if it does recover. And at this point, it's still kind of questionable. So I'll be paying attention to the Sunday close. And then really at the end of the month and the monthly close. But I mean, it could be one of those things to where you wake up in the morning and it's right back at 116, 117, and alts are going up too. So we've seen it before in the past. It's just it's kind of crazy that they're playing with retail and the liquidity and all the leverage trading that they are. They continue to do this chop, kind of like Patty said, even in crypto, where you have this sideways, very difficult to, long-term investors, and then difficult to trade in, but they're continuing to liquidate retail investors. And I think a lot of institutions are increasing their positions as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people are talking about, this sell-off and how it's kind of continued the weakness from the crash last week. And I know some bulls that are now questioning whether the 4-year cycle is still intact, and which is kind of interesting to me because, I've been in crypto since 2013. I've seen a lot of cycles, and the 4-year cycle it seemed to, in the past, it's just there every single time, whether you like it or not. And then you want to say this time is different because this Trump administration is so supportive. The whole world is starting to buy Bitcoin. It still feels under-adopted. Sovereign wealth funds are accumulating Bitcoin. We could talk with Kyle about that. Charles Schwab, 11 trillion asset manager, just said that they're going to start Bitcoin liquidity, spot Bitcoin and crypto liquidity starting next year. So you have
Good.
all these fundamental tailwinds for adoption, for higher prices, and we all can probably agree that it is under adopted on a multi-year time frame. We think that more and more people will allocate to crypto over periods of time. So fundamentally, it supports higher prices. Technically, the 4-year cycle should peak between August and October this year. We are there right now. And so is 125 or whatever the high in Bitcoin. Was that the high of this cycle? And if so, how long is it going to take for us to trough? And at what price is the trough going to come at? Historically, we've seen as much as 85% drawdowns. I don't think that's possible anymore. I think there's a lot of buyers out there waiting to scoop up, bargain basement discounts. 100K, 95K, 90K. That's my personal belief. I would be shocked if we get, below 90K. Some people think 70K, but I'm curious what everyone thinks regarding that. Fundamentally, we are in a bull market. Technically, we may have positioned ourselves to have peaked and are heading into this 4-year cycle drawdown.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on the fundamental side and how that's I think playing a role in the technical side and that's one of the charts the different supply and demand zones is typically what I use for that 4-year cycle and I do start to see a deviation from previous cycles where it's pretty easy to predict. So I would agree on that point as well, and watching charts closely to see if we're going to get that, because I thought we were right on the cusp of getting at least a mini altcoin rally too, and then we kind of had that liquidity crisis. But paying attention, and I think you're spot on with your analysis.
Excellent. I
Well,
can't add to that.
a question for Jason. Well, Jason, would that be positive for your business so more people could afford a quarter or a half of Bitcoin to do a contract with you?
Well, that you're speaking to people that don't have Bitcoin that are going to buy Bitcoin to have a life insurance policy meanwhile. Because from our perspective, Bitcoin's our currency. One Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. Whatever the price action does in dollars, euros, yen, you name it, one Bitcoin always equals one Bitcoin. And if you have a quarter Bitcoin today, you have a quarter Bitcoin tomorrow, and you can,
Mm-hmm.
and a quarter Bitcoin is our minimum policy size. So
Right.
it doesn't impact anyone except those who have zero Bitcoin and want to buy Bitcoin just to get a policy. And yes, as prices go
Right,
down, it's cheaper to buy that quarter Bitcoin. But I
right.
think that 90% of our client, maybe 80% of our clients had Bitcoin before they signed up. There are people
Okay.
we worked with, but they're mostly high net worth family offices who are deciding to allocate, a percentage of their portfolio, and these are wealthy people, so $1 million or whatever, into Bitcoin for the first time. And then the question is, what do you do with that Bitcoin? Where do you store it? Well, putting it into a policy like ours, which is custodied at Anchorage, is probably one of the best things you could possibly do.
Mhm.
I might
Yeah.
have to clip that out and send it to a friend. I had a conversation with them last night. They had lost the keys to their
Oh my God.
mining. Well, anyway, to keep it simple, they'd lost the keys to their Bitcoin and they found it recently. And it turns out he has quite a few. And we had a large discussion last night about what to do with it. He wants to liquidate some of it to put it into different instruments, financial instruments, and better his lifestyle too. But anyway,
You
but
better
I
tell them
said
about
don't
Jason.
liquidate it,
Yeah.
borrow against it. But I don't think I made the case very well. But anyway,
George, I'd be happy to talk to him.
yeah. So
Yeah.
exactly, that's what I'm looking to do is find somebody he can talk to, not to give him financial advice because that's not what we do here, but to have a conversation so he can understand better about what his options are and let him make the decision. But anyway, that's just my take on that conversation last night. I thought he was going to be on the phone today, I'm sorry, on the call today, but he is not with us. But anyway, thank you for being with us, and thank you for getting in to the call after waiting in the room for a while. And same with Kyle. So we appreciate both of you joining us. And asked you back because I thought there were some questions left over from the last conversation we had about what your product is and how to get into it and the advantages of it. And I think we covered those fairly well, but I wanted also to tie in the relationship between Meanwhile and Anchorage and let both of you speak up. Maybe we can recap very quickly, Jason, what Meanwhile does and or what their product is and the advantages of it, and then bring Kyle
Yeah.
in to sort of tie it in together about how
Yeah.
custody part of it. So anyway, if you guys want to take it, and anybody wants to jump in, Patty, I know you had several questions, but jump in the middle of Jason's conversation. I'll try and extend the call to remember to extend the call because the last time I didn't, and poor Daniel got cut off in the middle of his conversation. So
George, mind if I make a quick comment before
please.
we hear from these two gentlemen? Yeah, just a couple of observations. And what I've learned, the last few weeks of my readings. First, I want to, let you know I didn't want to engage Jerry Dwyer in a debate on stable coins this morning, but that was right on point. And I did take the time, in between now then and now to put a little comparison together that I posted in the chat for the Wyoming stable token versus use case with USDC. And it came up. We had a interesting comparison of where it might be more beneficial for a state to use a stablecoin and or a private enterprise to use stablecoin. So, Jerry, I've made you an editor on that document, and let's see if we can't put that together and make it something that we can use with South Carolina Emerging Tech. On Aaron's comments, as far as the sell-off in the market. Obviously, weak hands. If you're highly leveraged in this industry, and we had so many noobs obviously coming into this industry. The liquidity issues associated with these altcoins, certainly wiped a lot of people out. So I think we obviously may be seeing a second run at that right now. If you buy and hold and you're you're not leveraged, you haven't taken, you didn't sell, you haven't taken a loss yet. So, I think we're still in that time frame where maybe we get the alt rally a little late this year. I mean, wouldn't surprise me. We have completely new dynamics going on. With so many more people, coming into the marketplace and all the education that's being done, at the financial house level. I don't think we've even seen that hit yet, where your Merrill Lynch broker is going to start calling your boomer crowd and say, "Oh, by the way, you need to look at the Solana thing, or you need to look at." Obviously, everybody's heard about Bitcoin, but there's so many altcoins that are still in, potentially in play. Um, and then on the point of the whale, that captured, obviously, it was interesting. I'd suggest looking at Eric Voorhees' post on how he viewed, that, from the standpoint that, what other financial vehicle would allow you to see that in real time and really be able to zero in on what happened. I mean, the fact that we have insider trading, I suppose no surprise there, even in this industry. But at the same time, I see this as a positive rather than a negative. So I'll hand it back off.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Kyle has to go very soon.
Yes,
Unfortunately,
he
he
does.
has another
Go ahead.
Yeah.
meeting.
Sorry.
So, why don't we just get started? I'm going to let Kyle start, and then as soon as he goes, I'll just take over and we'll
Thank
continue
you.
the discussion.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jason and George and team. It's great to be back and speak with everybody again. For those who don't know, Anchorage Digital is the only federally regulated digital asset custodian here in the U.S. today. So we're overseen by the OCC, which continues to remain unique. You see a lot of headlines and news about several additional orgs applying for this type of regulatory status, but at least for the time being, we are the one and only. And a big reason we are the one and only is because of our security model, where here at Anchorage, 100% of client assets are held in air-gapped cold storage. It's the same way this country stores nuclear codes. So we essentially provide, groups like BlackRock, custodying the BTC backing IBIT, groups like Meanwhile working really closely with Jason, so that as what we really think is the next wave of digital asset adoption, which we're really seeing being driven by Bitcoin, even less so stablecoin, we hope to provide the foundation for these really innovative new groups to continue to grow. So again, I apologize that I need to be so short-winded. If anything, usually people are, hooking me off the Apollo stage, but always happy to come back and have this conversation again. And as I've said before, to members of this group, please feel free to reach out, ask me questions, connect with me on LinkedIn, and anything that we can do to be a resource. Always, more than happy to help. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a great weekend. I apologize. I need to jump. I'm getting on a call with a regulator, and this would be a lot more interesting, but unfortunately, my attendance is required.
All right. Well, thanks.
All right.
Thank you, Kyle.
Talk to you later, Kyle. So I can answer probably a lot of questions about Kyle and Anchorage as well, for those that have them, because we custody our assets at Anchorage, and they're obviously one of the probably best custodians on the planet in terms of security. They're more of a cybersecurity company first than anything else. They provide liquidity and other services. And so when it came time for Meanwhile to figure out, all right, this is life insurance. We have very long dated liabilities. We have 20-year-olds with policies. They're not going to die for 70 plus years. How do we guarantee that the Bitcoin outlives them? How do we guarantee that the Bitcoin will last for generations, centuries? And the answer is Anchorage. And so what you get when you decide, once you buy Bitcoin, then the question is, how do I safely store it? Any age you are, life is fragile. Young people have tragic accidents, elderly, you don't have a long time. And you think about your inheritance, you think about your family, you think about your assets, you think about trying to provide for the next generation. Obviously, the dollar is experiencing lots of inflation. The purchasing power is going down by the month, by the year. And so, how do you preserve your wealth? And Bitcoin is obviously one of those answers. We can all agree on that. And then, how do you store that Bitcoin safely? So, our product, and I'll just give this super quickest overview because I did give a pretty detailed description on my last call. And anyone else who this is your first time on the call and you haven't heard me speak before, please feel free to get in touch with me after, and we can have a more detailed back and forth. But it's Bitcoin denominated life insurance. It's a whole life insurance policy where you pay your premiums in Bitcoin, your death benefits paid out in Bitcoin, a bigger number than the premiums paid in, like all life insurance works. And you can get policy loans, meaning you can monetize your Bitcoin. You can borrow against your whole life policy, this whole concept of infinite banking, tax-free. The beautiful thing about whole life insurance is that it's all tax-free. The assets grow tax-free, your policy loans are tax-free, the death benefit pays out tax-free. So this is a way to get yield on your Bitcoin. It's a way to monetize your Bitcoin, and it's a way to pass on more Bitcoin than you ever had in the first place to your loved ones, tax-free, and the Bitcoin always stays at Anchorage. I'm happy to open it up to, a more of a, back and forth discussion. I don't want to get caught doing a monologue, but, feel free to jump in.
Yeah.
Just on a practical level, George, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I have, just pretend, I have a quarter of a Bitcoin at Robinhood, and then I do a contract with you, Jason, and so we transfer the Bitcoin to you, which goes to Anchorage.
Correct. So
Gotcha.
the minimum policy size we do is a quarter Bitcoin. It used to be one full Bitcoin, but prices have gone up so much that we decided to cut it to a quarter to make it, more affordable for everyone and democratize access to our policy. This is called a 10 pay, a limited pay policy. That means you pay your premiums over 10 years in equal annual installments. So you have two options. You can pay that quarter Bitcoin over 10 years. So what would that be? 0.025 Bitcoin per year for 10 years to total 0.25. Or you could just pay it all up front. Either way, it doesn't affect any ability to borrow or get more yield or anything like that because we are a non-MEC, a non-modified endowment contract by the IRS, which means that there is no taxable event. If we allowed you to pay all your premiums up front and borrow a big chunk of it tomorrow, that's the IRS knows that that's a tax loophole. They plugged it about 50 years ago when people were using their yachts as collateral and getting loans against, and so that is unavoidable. So whether you pay your premiums yourself every year for 10 years, or you decide to just lump sum, send it all in up front, we will escrow it at Anchorage on your behalf and deposit it into your policy on your behalf one at a time for 10 years. And then you're done for life. It's whole life. A limited pay means you're not paying your whole life. You pay for 10 years once a year, and then you're done. Your policy is in force and active the moment you pay your first premium. Meaning, let's say you have 10 Bitcoin in total premium and the death benefit is 20 Bitcoin. And that 10 Bitcoin in premium is 1 Bitcoin a year for 10 years, right? You pay that first Bitcoin on day one, you're happy you have this new policy, and then, tragically you get hit by a bus. Well, the full 20 Bitcoin death benefit pays out to your loved ones, even though you've only paid 1 Bitcoin in.
Right.
So it's a guaranteed face amount.
Gotcha.
Oh.
Jason, what is the time frame, for getting a policy and potentially borrowing against it to avoid
You can get
IRS?
a policy. You can get a policy in literally a few days. Everything's online. You don't have to visit a doctor, submit blood or urine samples. We do only insure people ages 18 to 65, but that doesn't preclude anyone because there's three parties to every insurance product. There's the owner who's responsible for paying the premiums and has access to those policy loans, which are tax-free. The owner can be a person, it can be an entity, it can be a trust. Then you have the insured. The insured life is a single human person life between 18 and 65. It could be a child, a grandchild, a niece, a nephew, someone with insurable interests that you are related to and can prove that you have a relation with. You can't get a policy on a homeless bum and hope he dies soon and then get a payout. And then lastly is the beneficiary. Beneficiary can be a person, it could be multiple people, like your spouse, your children, all your grandchildren in equal splits. It could be a trust, it can be an entity, it could be a charity. So we have a lot of people that are older than 65, but have accumulated some Bitcoin. They have a policy on one of their children or grandchildren who's over 18. The younger and healthier you are, the bigger the death benefit. So, for example, an 18-year-old female, 10 Bitcoin in premium pays 25 Bitcoin in death benefit. It's a 2.5x on your premium.
Okay.
Whereas a 64-year-old male, which is almost at the cutoff, 10 Bitcoin in premium pays about 10.4 Bitcoin in death benefit. You can understand why. So the younger and healthier you are, if you have someone in your life that you're related to, that's but you're the one with the Bitcoin. That's how a lot of people structure their policies.
Thank you.
I see you buy the, I'm struggling a little bit. You buy the value of the death benefit, 20 Bitcoin, for instance. And
You
that,
pay premium. What the way it works is this.
yeah.
You have an amount of Bitcoin that you have. Nobody knows how much Bitcoin you have. It's a personal amount. Just like, I'm not asking you how much is in your checking account. And you come to meanwhile saying, hey, I have this amount of Bitcoin that I'd like to explore using as premium. I understand the premium is paid over 10 years in equal annual installments, or I could pay it all up front. It's my choice. But let's say I have 10 Bitcoin. What do I get for it? Well, we'll say, okay, who's going to be the insured? How old are they? And are they healthy? Like, they don't have a terminal illness or something like that. Yeah. My daughter, she's 20 years old, healthy as can be. Great. A 20-year-old female, 10 Bitcoin in premium would have 24 and a half Bitcoin in death benefit. And so you can gift her a policy, essentially. You can get a policy on her life. You are responsible for paying the premium, so it's no cost to her. It's your Bitcoin that you're going to be depositing it in. And it has this face amount of 24 Bitcoin. Why is it so big? Because we expect this 20-year-old person to live a long, healthy life, to live 70 more years. And at any point, to get the policy loans, you do have to wait 2 years before you can start borrowing tax-free against it. And the mechanics of the borrow are as follows. And I'll draw a comparison to traditional whole life insurance. So a traditional boring dollar life insurance, the way it works is you go to that life insurer, pick any of them, Mass Mutual, and you say, "Hey, I'd like a policy, like $1 million policy on my daughter." And they say, "Great." They'll crunch some numbers based on her age, health, sex, smoking status, and then they'll give you an amount of premium, dollar premium that you have to pay either each month or each year. And that premium, because this is whole life, is going to go into a mutual fund that'll have a guaranteed growth rate of 4%. And that mutual fund will go up 4% every year forever until the insured passes. And so it accumulates value. It's an investment account. And you can borrow against that mutual fund tax free. So that, let's say that mutual fund after 2 decades is up 30%. You can say, "I need some cash, I want a down payment on a house, whatever it might be. I'm going to borrow 100K because 100K is within the threshold of what I can borrow after 2 decades of growth." So the way it works is you can borrow 100K without paying a dime on that 30% appreciation. There's no capital gains tax, no tax whatsoever on borrowing out of a life insurance policy. The reason there's no tax on anything in the whole life is because the government structured it as so. They want everybody in the world, everyone in their country, to be able to get whole life, to be able to get any type of life insurance. Why? Because it protects them, it protects their family, it creates less dependency on the government, less welfare, less handouts, less need for help. And so they've created these incentive structures or levers to try to get everyone who can afford it to buy it because of these protection mechanisms. And the way that they decided to create the incentives is no tax. The assets get yield tax free. You can borrow from it tax free. And when it pays out, when there's a claim, that goes to their family tax free. So if you can afford it, you get all these tax benefits. Now, if you wrap traditional life insurance, the tax benefits onto your Bitcoin, where everything's in Bitcoin, well, then your Bitcoin suddenly becomes tax free. It gets yield and it grows tax free. You can get those policy loans tax free. The way that works is you get a stepped up cost basis. Bitcoin goes to $1 million instead of selling Bitcoin at $1 million. If you want some cash and you pay a very big capital gains tax, you can borrow from your policy. You could borrow up to 90% of the surrender value, and you're going to be borrowing Bitcoin, not dollars. And you never have to repay the loan because it just nets out of the death benefit. If your death benefit's 20 Bitcoin, you borrow 2 Bitcoin, then your new death benefit's 18, you never have to repay the loan. And that 2 Bitcoin that you just got in a borrow has a new cost basis because it's new, different Bitcoin on that date in the future, that it has a cost basis that's established on the day you originate the loan. In that case, $1 million coin. You go to the exchange that day, sell those 2 Bitcoin at $1 million a coin, and your cost basis equals your sale price. You get 2 million cash, and you don't have to repay the 2 million cash because it's Bitcoin
That's
originally.
right.
And it was 2 Bitcoin that you borrowed that nets out of your death benefit. So instead of 20, it's now 18. And it's Bitcoin against Bitcoin collateral, so there's no risk of a margin call either. So just like the traditional life, mutual fund was up 30%, you don't have to pay gains. Bitcoin, it's a convex asset. It has asymmetric upside. It's up 1,000%. Same thing. You don't have to pay any gains in that 1,000%.
Got it. So we got a couple of questions.
Great.
Jump in, Paul or Patrick.
Kyle,
Yeah.
if I can ask a quick question, Kyle, who are some of the insurance companies that are behind Meanwhile?
Northwestern Mutual,
Northwestern.
Apollo. So Apollo owns Athene. But we have other VC and asset managers behind us too. Bain Capital,
Yeah.
Pawn Ventures, Pantera. Yeah, a bunch of big names behind us that we're very proud of.
Yeah. Well, nothing says institutional great investing like those names, needless to say. So, I see this as an underlying, recognition that Bitcoin is here to stay.
I agree.
Okay. Are you in the US or you live down in Bermuda?
No, our company is based in Bermuda, but we're spread all over. I'm in Miami. Today I'm actually in
Oh,
Montreal because there's the Canadian Bitcoin conference that I'm speaking at. But yeah, I'm in
oh,
Miami.
Wow.
okay.
Awesome. That's Paul, do you want to ask a question? You've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, sure. Hey, Jason, good to see you on the call again. there's another gentleman who's part of this group who's actually not on the call, but we were having a discussion earlier this week around just life insurance in general. And I brought up how much I like this idea. And the one thing that came up, which I didn't have an answer to, were fees around the insurance policy, right? Traditionally, they're relatively high for some. How are they in relation to the industry? Who pays those? How are those fees paid? Are those fees paid in
Yeah,
Bitcoin? They take a portion of the Bitcoin for those fees?
good question. Now, everything we do is in Bitcoin, but life insurance is one of those interesting products where fees are not what we're used to in the rest of having a life and having expenses where there's fees or costs. With Bitcoin denominated life insurance, we had to flip the whole concept of traditional life insurance upside down because Bitcoin is our currency and Bitcoin's a scarce asset. So whereas traditional life, when you ask for coverage, like you go to them saying, I want coverage, I want $1 million policy, and then they crunch numbers and dictate to you an amount of premium that you have to pay. Well, in that premium, there's obviously fees and expenses baked in. You don't even know how much. You just know that they're telling you a dollar number you have to pay every month or every year. Clearly, there's some fees built into that dollar number. With our product, because Bitcoin's scarce, we can't dictate to you anything in terms of premiums that you have to pay because we don't know how much Bitcoin you have. So instead of asking for coverage and us dictating you premium and there's fees and expenses baked into that, you choose your own premium
Mm-hmm.
because of the scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
So you can say I have 10 Bitcoin, but I'm only going to use 5 Bitcoin in this, premium, zero point 0.5 a year for 10 years to total 5. Whatever you want. Or maybe you decide instead of 5, I'll do 4 or 3. Whatever it is, it's your choice. So there's no fees in the premium per se. Then what we give you is a death benefit ratio because our product grows at 2% a year, which is the minimum to be qualified as insurance, as life insurance, 2% growth rate, 2% yield on your Bitcoin every year. For example, if it was 0, then we would just be a custodian. You give us 10 Bitcoin, you die, your family gets 10 Bitcoin. There's no difference between that and custody, someone else holding your Bitcoin and just stewarding it for your life. For it to qualify as life insurance, it has to grow at least 2% a year, and that's the yield that we chose. So the 10 Bitcoin for a 30-year-old turning into 20 Bitcoin as death benefit grows at 2% a year every year for that person's life, amortized to age 100. Now, if you look at a traditional dollar policy, $100,000 for a 30-year-old, 10 pay, similar to our structure, it pays more than 2x. It pays probably 2.5 to 3x, 250,000 or 300,000 instead of just 200,000. So whereas ours is 10 Bitcoin pays 20, a 30-year-old 10 pay at Mass Mutual might have 100K paying 300K. So that's bigger ratio than ours. The reason for that is because they get a 4% or 5% growth rate. So it's growing quicker and faster than the 2% in our terms. But also we do bake in what are called morbidity charges, which have to do with your age and health, and men have a higher likelihood of passing away at a earlier and at a younger age than females. That's just statistically proven. And we have actuarials at our company, of course, we're a life insurance company that have done the math and look at the statistic bell curves on everything and everyone. So the charges are baked into your ratio. So they're not explicit, but essentially you come to us and it's hard to say when you're a 30-year-old and 10 Bitcoin premium and we say it pays 20, there's basically nobody that says, well, it should be paying 27 or whatever, because it's just, we have our charges baked in. We're a conservative life insurance company. We're relatively new, founded in 2022. There's no competition. No one does what we do. So we price very conservatively. So the only place that you're going to find fees are in that ratio, and it's pretty opaque from your perspective. And because there's no competition or there's no one to compare to, I guess I'll just say it is what it is. That makes sense.
Yeah. So then just a quick follow-up. How does Meanwhile make money then?
So the way we make money is by capturing spread on top of the 2% yield that we guarantee to our policyholders. So how do we get yield is the question. We have a very clever way because we're in a unique position being a crypto life insurance company, meaning our liabilities are extremely long dated. We have 20-year-olds that have policies that aren't going to pass away probably until for 70 years. So long dated liabilities, therefore we are duration seeking. We're willing to take long-term loans with the right counterparties if the risk parameters meet our conservative requirements. And so the way that we get yield is through loans with typically Bitcoin miners and Bitcoin miners have low cost basis Bitcoin on their balance sheet. What that means is they've been mining Bitcoin for a long time. And, some of them have been mining Bitcoin since it was $50 or $100 a coin. And just like the rest of us, if they sell their Bitcoin, they have to pay cap gains tax. Their cost basis is established on the day they mine the Bitcoin. And if they sell Bitcoin for their CapEx or OpEx needs, then whatever the price they're selling at, they have to pay a gain on the difference. Now, it makes no economic sense for anyone to sell Bitcoin they mined at $50 if they're mining Bitcoin today and yesterday and last week and last month, closer to today's market price. They have CapEx needs. If they need cash, they have two options: sell Bitcoin, which they'll choose to do it the Bitcoin they mined recently, so it's a smaller tax liability, or they can borrow against their facility, their computers, their ASIC mining chips. And so, what do they do with all that low cost basis Bitcoin where it doesn't make sense to sell? Well, the answer is literally nothing. It's sitting there. They're essentially a Bitcoin treasury company, and they can't do anything with that Bitcoin, economically speaking. And so, what we've constructed is a way to free up that low cost basis Bitcoin through the form of a 1-year repurchase agreement or a loan with Meanwhile, where we are willing to allow them to lend us 100 low cost basis Bitcoin. We'll send them back 100 Bitcoin. The Bitcoin we send them back takes on today's cost basis. So while they're sending us 100 low cost basis Bitcoin that's pretty useless for them, that they'll never sell, we send them back 100 Bitcoin that takes on a $105,000 coin cost basis, which they can immediately sell into cash for CapEx needs or for whatever they want. Mechanically, they're going to pay us 3.5% upfront. So they send us 100 Bitcoin, we send them 96.5 Bitcoin back. That's the 3.5% immediately. The 100 Bitcoin they send us stays at Anchorage. They get 96.5 Bitcoin. They sell it. They do whatever they want with it. If they go bankrupt tomorrow, we don't care because we have all 100 Bitcoin of theirs. It's a fully collateralized loan. So we're getting 3.5% yield upfront in Bitcoin denominated terms, of which we give 2% to all of our policyholders, and we keep the 1.5% on top as spread, and that's how we make money. So it's a fully collateralized, no counterparty risk, no credit risk loan, and that's how we get our yield.
All right. Gosh, that's a fascinating answer. And a great question, Paul. Let's take one question from Patrick and let's wrap this baby up because we've almost at an hour. And you know me, I prefer get this question in from Patrick and let's go and then we'll let Dennis and a couple other people talk about some upcoming things. But Patrick, you got the
Yeah,
floor,
well,
buddy.
Paul's last question was my question, just because I heard you bring up mutual fund, and I was like, wait, why would they go back into fiat? And that didn't make sense to me. I think you were just using it as an example.
Yeah, I
So,
draw
so you
traditional
you
life
answered
as
the
an example.
question. You answered the question. So I don't have a question. Thanks for coming back.
That's great. Yeah, thank you,
Good question,
Jason.
Paul.
And we appreciate it. Let's jump in. Dennis has got a couple of things he'd like to speak about. I guess the Crypto Monday. You want to jump in, Dennis?
Yeah,
Hey
real
guys,
quick.
I have to jump. Sorry, Dennis,
Yeah.
I got to jump to my next call. So
Yeah.
I put my email in the chat. If everyone, feel free to shoot me a note if you want to get in touch
Jason, thank you
or
so
talk
much.
about more details. And
Thanks, Jason.
take care, George. Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Yeah.
buddy.
Good
All
luck
Thank,
at
right.
thank you for
your
coming,
meeting.
Jason. Very informative.
All right,
Yeah,
Dennis.
real quickly, Crypto Monday. We're kicking off Crypto Monday, Charleston CAHS on Monday. Thanks to Paul for jumping into the breach here and and putting this program together with me. And we've invited Mike Burkholt to come in and talk about Bitcoin, what his plans are if he wins the race as Controller General, how he sees AI as a possible opportunity to utilize, to really scrutinize some of the spending that's done. I mean, we have a spending problem in South Carolina. We were talking the other day, it was telling me the number of transactions that just go out every day. I mean, it's just an
Yeah.
impossible number to even manage and to scrutinize. So, we're going to turn the mic around also after about 15 minutes of talk and let him ask us questions on, he's learning. He's self-confessed new in this area, has some background from earlier days. We've got really the first candidate for public office in South Carolina, is willing to talk about this stuff in an open forum and really as a give and take opportunity. So
I,
really looking forward to seeing how this works out and where
are
we go from
you,
there. So
a
yeah,
quick question, Dennis, are you going to give him the opportunity to talk about Checkbook Ohio?
well, we could certainly ask the question.
All right, there you go.
No
I just
question.
want,
Yeah, absolutely. Let's
I'm
frame that.
sorry
We
I'm
can
not
frame
going to be
that
able to
out.
make that, but that'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Let's
then
see.
we've got we'll be sponsoring the Charleston steeplechase. That's coming up on November the 9th. We'll be tailgating there with Stand with Crypto, South Carolina Emerging Tech, and
Yeah,
I actually purchased another spot the other day for South Carolina blockchain, so we can have a nice big presence there. And I've got an artist coming in. I expect to wrap that up today. That's done a lot of work in doing this industry and well known around the world. And we bought some of his work ourselves, and anxious to potentially get him some exposure as well. Let's see. Uh, the thing about that staying with crypto is nobody's really talked about it. Next Thursday, Voorhees College has in Denmark has a big entrepreneur day, innovation day. Jonathan Dunsmore is going to be there with Stand with Crypto. I'm thinking about if I
yeah,
could break loose, running up there as well. And then that evening, we have the Charleston County Republican Party Gala where we're finalizing our sponsorship there, and we'll be paying them in Bitcoin. That'll be the first transaction the Charleston County Republican Party takes, or rather, I mean, I think I would venture to say any of the party events accepted Bitcoin. So, and then the last item on the agenda in November, we're in the planning stage right now for November 20th, and that's going to be voting integrity. I said with all of the the news we have coming out of South Carolina votes and South Carolina, you're really being focused on being a voting integrity state. How blockchain, how AI, how it all works into the voting process. I'll be featuring Carlos Torriello, who is one of the founders of Simple Proof, who did the Guatemala election, and the commissioner from the voting uh, director from Screven County, Georgia, who was the first U.S. county, to actually utilize the Bitcoin blockchain to audit that election next year, last year.
yeah.
So
All
a lot of
right.
things coming up, a
Sure
lot in the
is.
hopper. I mean, I just
Now,
encourage everybody go out and evangelize. Pick an opportunity and set up a meeting and let people know what you're doing.
there you
It's all
go.
about education in the
All
long run.
right. So thank you. Yeah, and it would be nice if we had some sort of video and audio from your conversation with Mike Burkholt on Monday. The other thing that I want to wrap up with is that the state fair is finishing up this week, but there is a SC 250 exhibit that occupies the entire roof building at the state fair. This is the South Carolina initiative for the 250th anniversary of the independence of this country, and it's a wonderful exhibit, and it talks about what each county is doing to their for their celebration come July the 4th, 2026. And so they've got a great website as well, but it was very exciting to um, see what they were doing at the state fair with some of the projects that they had started. And I did want to see if maybe we can maybe integrate something in with either Charleston County or Richland County to put a little pop into their presentation. And that would be a conversation I'd like to have with Dennis or anyone else that knows or has an association with Beeple down in Charleston. So, Dennis, you and I need to talk. And the rest of y'all, have a great weekend. We got a game coming up this weekend with Oklahoma. And so we'll just be excited about that.
Yeah, thank you, George.
Yeah.
Look out for Jonathan Dunsmore. He'll be tailgating at that
Yeah.
game.
Yes, that game coming up. Yeah, he'll probably have his 10 out for sure. Thank y'all. Have a great weekend. Let's
Thank
see
you,
you next
George.
Friday. How about that?
Thanks, George. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.